infinity.
Hello and welcome to the final episode of To Infinity War. We're now past Infinity War. We've gone beyond infinity, Jared. We've gone beyond infinity for this episode, which is going to be the episode in which Jared and I, being Dan, will finally reveal what we've teased out this whole time, our personal rankings of the 18 Marvel Cinematic Universe films that came before Infinity War. Why not include Infinity War? Several reasons. One, when I think about where I would put Infinity War on this list, I don't know where I would put it on my list yet. And I know I'm not alone in that. And two, we started soliciting lists from our fan base before Infinity War came out, so it would not be fair to some of those people to include a movie that they did not get a chance to rank. Because, in addition to sharing our individual rankings, we are going to also share, because Jared has compiled and done arithmetic, a community-based list from how many lists of rankings have we compiled, sir?
Let me count them, because I didn't do that right then. A dozen.
No worries. A literal dozen.
Literal actual dozen.
Well,
not a baker's dozen, just a dozen.
Thank you to the dozen fans who involved themselves in creating their own lists of ranking the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We appreciate you all.
At home.
We appreciate you all very much. And we have taken, what exact path have we taken, Jared, to determine the aggregate of those dozen lists?
So a few of them, either because of not wanting to do a whole list or not having seen a movie, don't have a full 1 through 18. But what I've done is I just put the list in like the MCU chronologically, ranked everybody's, or put in everybody's rank for each movie, and if they didn't rank it, I gave it what would be the average, so 9.5 points. If they ranked it number 1, I put 1, and lowest score is the top movie.
Cool.
So I also I have the total, plus I actually averaged out the scores between the dozen rankings, so we can get an idea of where average everyone thinks it should be as well.
I like that. I like that, and I appreciate the amount of work that you've put into making sure that we have an accurate depiction of what our fan base is interested in.
Yeah, I felt like the average for all the non-ranked ones, like a couple people only did like a top 5.
Mm-hmm.
One person did a top 3 and a bottom 2 and left the rest as everything else. So
I could see that. I really could. I could see these are my favorites. These are the ones that really stink on ice, and
everything else is a movie.
And the rest. So, with that in mind, how I would like to tackle this, if you are feeling up to it yourself, is I'll give my 18, you give your 18, and then we'll give the aggregate 18.
Perfect.
And then we'll move on from there to eventually land at my 1, your 1, and the aggregate 1. How does that sound?
It sounds exactly like I was hoping.
All right.
Because of course, we're starting from the bottom.
Oh, well, yeah, you got to count
and
up.
And then we'll be here, but we're not here yet.
Starting from the bottom, soon to be approximately here. So, my 18, which should surprise no one who has either listened to the entirety of this podcast or is a friend of mine for a long period of time, is Thor 2: The Dark World. Movie stinks. Jared, your 18?
My 18 is Iron Man 2, because this movie is also stink.
And the aggregate?
The aggregate agrees with Dan.
Hey, Thor 2 sucks.
Thor: The Dark World finished with 183 points.
And what would be the worst possible score? What's 18 times 12?
That would be some number that my brain doesn't want to talk about.
216.
There you go.
So that had it had exactly 84.7% of all possible points it could have gotten.
Yep.
To be the worst.
The average score, because there was 2 that didn't rank it because they only did the top 5, or it wasn't in the bottom 2 of the one that did the bottoms. Finished with an average of 15.25.
Okay.
An average score.
Yeah, so that's pretty bad.
Quite.
That's pretty bad. I mean, the movie's not good. And you know what? For a little spoiler, Iron Man 2 is not going to be too far away on my list. So, it won't be long before we get there from my list either. So, at least we're relatively in the same wheelhouse when it comes to how bad these movies are. My 17, moving on, is Thor. Did it even have a subtitle, or was it just Thor?
It was just Thor.
Okay, just
Much
Thor.
like how the first Iron Man was just Iron Man.
Iron Man. Oh, good point. And yeah, the Incredible Hulk was the Incredible Hulk. What is your 17, sir?
My 17 is also Thor.
Ah, what is the aggregate 17?
The aggregate's 17 is Iron Man 2.
Ah,
So.
And you were going to give some reason for Thor in your camp?
Yeah, just for me, Thor, I liked less than Thor 2. Partly because the casting. I liked Zach Levi as Flandrel a little bit more. And overall, neither movie had much of anything going for it. But I liked the show Chuck that Zachary Levi was on before he was on this movie.
So Thor literally gets a leg up over Iron Man 2 because of Chuck.
Yes, that is basically the only reason. Also, it's a plot device and just hinting at it, but the more Infinity Stone information that we got, the happier I was, because I was like, this is what we're leading to. Give me more of this. Why did you put it in this vehicle? Whatever, I'll live with it.
All right. I have, I definitely have some feeling along a similar path for Thor. I also just, Chris Hemsworth is a better actor than he shows in this movie.
Yes, he is.
Natalie Portman is a better actress than she shows in this movie. Though, to be fair, a Block of Wood is a better actress than Natalie Portman in this movie. And,
can you imagine if they had Plank from Ed, Edd and Eddie?
I'm pretty sure it would
as
be
the
an
love
improvement.
interest?
I'm pretty sure it would be an improvement. And
yeah, I can see that being amazing.
Stellan Skarsgård is a better actor than he is in this movie. Even in, the subsequent Marvel stuff, he's better than he is in this movie. So, just wherever. Where did this finish in average placing?
Thor?
Yeah, your average rating.
You mean the 18th movie? Because remember, the 18th movie for them was Iron Man 2.
Oh, right. Good point. Sorry.
Yes.
Where did their 18th movie finish?
So it had 14.33 was the average. Finished with 172 points.
Okay.
So
still
a little bit better.
Still bad, but not as bad.
Like a full point per person.
Below.
So that's about where it should be.
Yeah, to make it one up the list. Next up on my list, Iron Man 2, because it has a weak plot and a weak villain, but a better hero and a better acted hero than either, in my opinion, Thor and Thor 2. Your number 16, sir?
Thor: The Dark World.
Ah.
When I said it barely beat Thor, I meant it.
Yeah. And the aggregate 16?
Had the Incredible Hulk.
Huh.
Which is understandably so. And I've heard a lot of people saying it's the worst one because they just, I guess, didn't want to give it any credit for being a good movie.
Yeah.
But,
well, Hulk has problems, but I think a lot of the movie's problems, and we touched on this in the episode that we did about it, a lot of the problems are it was the second movie in the franchise, and they hadn't quite figured out their formula yet. I think if you got an Incredible Hulk movie now, discounting the fact that we've had so much Hulk character development since then, if you got an Incredible Hulk movie now, I think it would be a much different experience than anything else.
Yeah, because this was before the world fell in love with the character in Avengers. They're still weary off of the Ang Lee Hulk, and you're just like, what's going on? And then it just couldn't quite, recover from that in a lot of people's view.
Yeah, Yeah. So I could see why people put it down lower. It's a bit higher up for me, so we'll get to it soon enough. And what was its actual average score?
14.08. So not even like less than a third of a point difference.
Yeah.
Between 16
a quarter of a
17,
point.
18.
A quarter of a point.
Yeah.
Which is less than a third, so good job. But
well, I saw the 0.33 for the Iron Man 2. I was like, that's a third.
Oh, yeah. Fair point. So moving right along, my 15 is Captain America: The First Avenger. Yours?
Also, Captain America: The First Avenger.
Nice. The aggregate?
Thor.
Okay. So Thor sticking close to the bottom there. Yeah, I had a feeling our bottom would be pretty similar. I didn't realize it would be this close, but I had a feeling our bottom rankings would be pretty similar because the bad movies are the bad movies. And the harder ones are the middle ground because like the good movies are the good movies, the bad movies are the bad movies. And while there is stuff in this movie that I absolutely love, montage.film does not a good movie make.
Absolutely not.
Like, and I'm even more forgiving because I actually like the USO montage a lot because it says a lot about who his character is at that point. I still find this movie very hard to stomach. It was one of the more difficult rewatches I had for this podcast because the thing is, like, rewatching Thor and Thor 2 was just like, I know these suck and I'm just gonna stomach it. Like, rewatching Cap was just like, there's a movie in here that doesn't suck, and unfortunately I have to watch this movie that does suck that could have not sucked.
Yeah.
So what was the average score for the aggregates Thor?
13.5.
Okay.
So 162 points overall.
Moving right along.
Yeah.
Moving right along, my number 14 is Ant-Man, because once again, like a lot of what I think about Captain America, there was almost a good movie there, in my opinion, and it just didn't work. Your 14?
My 14 was unfortunately The Incredible Hulk.
Ah.
So I liked Ant-Man a little bit more. Like, I have that a little bit higher. But just The Incredible Hulk, I can mostly blame Edward Norton for it being so low.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like
Edward Norton's performance or Edward Norton being a prick in post-production?
The post thing.
Okay.
And the actual act production, because he rewrote too many lines. It seemed like he wanted to put too much Ed Norton and not enough Bruce Banner into this movie.
All right. I will take that. The aggregates 14 is
Iron Man 3. Not a well-loved movie.
No, apparently not. Apparently I am alone in my love of that movie.
I mean, 12.75, so 3/4 of a point ahead of Thor.
Yeah. Well, I have a feeling they're going to start doing that here in a bit. Or they're going to be kind of wildly varied, because I know a lot of people have varying opinions about where exactly some of the good ones land. Watching as people were turning in these reviews was enlightening, to say the least.
Yeah, there's one section which is all separated with less than a half a point, though.
Oh, that's interesting.
Shortly.
Excited to see when we get there. Spoilers, though. So moving along, my number 13, to continue a bit of a trend here, is The Incredible Hulk.
Okay.
Because of a lot of the similar stuff where I agree with what you just said, it feels like Ed Norton was trying to play Ed Norton.
Yeah.
Also, as I mentioned when we did the episode, I had never seen this movie before we did this podcast. Because I avoided it because of Ang Lee reasons.
Meanwhile, I'm the only one in the theater when I went to go see it.
Because there were other people avoiding it for Ang Lee reasons. So
And I'm a completionist.
I am now.
And it has to do with it.
Yeah, I am now. I was not then in the same manner. So what have you put for your number 13, sir?
Iron Man 3.
Ah,
I'm very close to what the fans are thinking.
you are relatively close to the fan review. And what is the aggregate's number 13?
Their number 13 is Captain America: The First Avenger.
I'm loving how close together these are.
It's pretty great.
What average did that get?
11.38. So
Almost
quite a big jump.
almost a point and a half.
Yeah, like it was just like boom. We like this movie way more than Iron Man 3.
Yeah, very, very much so.
Like it ranked as high as 4th on somebody's list.
That's
Whose name that is, I will not tell on the podcast.
please don't, because that's high ranking.
For he listens, and we can berate him later for this.
We can berate him in person. Number 13 for me was Captain America: Civil War. We already had the team up movies in the Avengers, and so the team up infighting.
Number 12, sir?
Or yeah, number 12, because we just did 13.
I was like, wow, you ranked 2 at 13. I respect your decisions.
What's happened here is I have written 13 twice.
Okay.
That's what has happened here. I have written 13 twice.
Agent 13.
I went 11, 13, 13, 14.
Oh, good.
So, yeah. So
Captain America, you mean this one?
Yeah, Captain America: Civil War, because we already had the team up movie in the Avenger. Actually, we had two team up movies, and we didn't need the
Avengers 2.5.
Really, that's basically what I didn't need was Avengers 2.5. Let's all be whiny, and it just didn't work for me. So, what is your 12, sir?
My 12 is Ant-Man.
Ant-Man.
So a little bit above like the Iron Mans and the other ones.
Mm-hmm. What did the aggregate have for us at position 12?
Ant-Man.
Oh, hey, look at you agreeing with the aggregate again.
That's what I do, apparently.
Yeah. So it's not in the lower it's not in the lower third of movies, but it's the bottom of the middle third.
Yes.
What aggregate score did it get?
10.67. So
nearly another full point.
Yeah.
Interesting. Moving along, my next two, 11 and 10, both surprised me how low they fell, but that's because some movies have to fall down to a certain perspective, and I feel like these are both going to be relative. Well, I don't know about my number 10, but my number 11 I think is going to be pretty contentious, and that's Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I don't know if way too much hype was built into it for me or what exactly the issue was, but I liked the movie, but I certainly didn't have I talked very positively about it in the podcast that we did, but comparing it directly to the 10 movies above it on the list, I did not like it as much.
Wow. That is fair.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My 11 was Captain America: Civil War.
Ah. Well, there we go. So once again, you and I fall pretty close to one another.
Yeah.
Anything particular you'd like to say about Civil War, or just meh?
Basically, you said it when you said it for your 12 spot, just that it didn't need to happen the way it did. Like, they had a better story that they could have used for the Civil War, and it could have been Avengers Civil War easily. But I was okay with them telling it from the standpoint of Cap, but easily, like in the comics, both sides could have been seen as right, and they were forcing down your throat that no, Cap is right, and this is his movie.
Yeah.
So it kind of took away that kind of voice of opinion that people should have.
Agreed. Where did the community fall on number 11?
Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Okay. And what average score did the community give Age of Ultron?
10.5.
Whoa.
0.17 difference between this
and Ant-Man. Interesting. Very interesting. Well, we'll dovetail right that into my number 10, which is Avengers: Age of Ultron. A movie that had you asked me in the blind, like just ask me the question, where do you put Avengers 2 in the Marvel? Like, would you put this movie in your top 10? And I would say absolutely. Now, granted, in my Marvel top 10. Now, granted, it's knocking right outside of the Marvel top 10. And had you asked me this question a year ago today, it would have way made it into my top 10 because there are 3 movies that have come out within the last 12 months in my top 10.
Number 10 is technically in the top 10.
It's true.
I mean, but we both know that the new Avengers probably is going to kick it out when we actually have you rank that.
Yeah, and that's kind of the point. Like, it's knocking on the door of the top 10, as opposed to if you had asked me a year ago, I would have been like, absolutely, might even make top 5. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, your number 10?
Doctor Strange.
Okay.
Like, I enjoyed the movie, and as you mentioned, it made my basically top 10 until I rank Infinity War. And I don't know, it just, with how much the movie lost in rewatching, just because it didn't have that same appeal as it did in the theaters.
Fair point. I mean, there's a lot to be said about your first viewing of a movie and any subsequent viewing of a movie. So that can be a good thing or a bad thing. So yeah, that's totally fair. What did the aggregate have for a number 10?
You're actually going to be kind of happy about this. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Ah. Okay.
They were very, very close to what you thought.
Yeah, I definitely thought that would be a lot more of a contentious choice for me to have that pretty low. But
and it finished with 10.25. Just
so
a quarter point difference.
We're in the meat of where people are starting to actually agree.
Yeah. Like, it was very close and very similar to those. Their 10 through 12 were super close. Like, the total points were 123 for this, 126 for number 11, 128 for number 12.
Wow, yeah, that is really, really close.
And had 2 people not marked 2 of those movies, one of which ranked 3 of those movies as the average, they may have actually been a little bit different, and they could have easily switched places. So, like, Guardians could easily be number 12 on the fan list, but a couple people didn't either see it or take the time to rank that far down.
Okay. All of these things good to know. Moving into the real meat here, the single digits.
The top half.
The single digits. My number 9, my number 9, Iron Man 3. Probably, I would say, the most contentious opinion that I have, at least I think.
It's way up there.
Because I really enjoy this movie, and though the Mandarin stuff has a lot of people, and we talked about this when we did the episode, a lot of people really didn't like it. I just love Ben Kingsley so much that it was all right.
I mean, I can't argue with that, because his portrayal of the character he was given was great.
Yeah.
But that's about all I can say about it.
Yeah, to each their own, right? That's why we're doing this.
Yeah.
You're number 9?
And I will just say, for your Iron Man 3 ranking, one person did have it higher than you do.
Whoa!
So, just throwing that little tidbit out there.
I want to know who that was.
This can all be revealed off air.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
It can be in the after show.
So what do you got for number 9, sir?
My number 9, Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes.
So, kind of low in the top 10, because a lot of people thought a little higher of it, but, I enjoyed it for what it was, but much like the next few movies, some of them are just really hard to knock down, because, like, I like this movie more. I like this movie a lot, but I like this movie a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. That's my top 5 until you get to number 1, which number 1 is a runaway for me. But my like 5, 4, 3, 2 could literally switch order at almost any time.
Yeah.
The aggregate's number 9.
And finishing with a rank of an average of 9 points, Doctor Strange.
Hey.
So it finished exactly average.
Yeah. Exactly where it belongs.
When you count 9 12 times and divide it by 12,
you get 9.
You get 9.
Finishing in the average. All right.
So,
fantastic.
The Doctor.
The Doctor, Stephen Strange. Oh, we're doing made-up names? Well, I'm Spider-Man.
I'd say spoilers, but that was all over the thing. And if they're listening to episode 20, they probably listen to episode 19.
Yeah, that was in the trailer.
Oh, yeah. Everywhere.
My number 8, Thor Ragnarok. I had a lot of fun with this movie and in this movie, and though there are glaring things that annoy me, it's just damn fun.
I can agree with you on that. I'm not going to agree on the ranking because my number 8 is different.
Well, what is your number 8 then?
My number 8 is Avengers: Age of Ultron.
Ah.
It shot up a little bit in my ranking because of the War Machine stuff at the end.
I know you are a War Machine fan.
Like, I played a lot. I went through a lot of points about that part when we did that episode, and just those two flying through the air, shooting down the robot men's. It's exactly what I wanted in an Avengers movie.
Doing War Machine things. What did the aggregate have for number 8?
Okay. Black Panther.
Whoa. All right, well, you're all fucking wrong.
Well, we can't say that because they all have their opinions.
And their opinions are wrong.
Stop that. Yeah, at 8.58. So
solidly in this position too.
Yeah.
Wow.
2 people hadn't seen it, or no, 1 person hadn't seen it, and 1 decided not to rank that far down their list because they only did the top 3.
Mm-hmm.
But
of the 10 remaining, it lands in 8th position.
Mm-hmm.
Where was the lowest that it ended up?
All the way down.
That is stacked. Did they see the same Black Panther movie that I saw?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know.
Like,
I don't know.
There's very little way they saw the same Black Panther movie that I saw. I don't know. We got to move on, or I'm gonna get really indignant.
Yeah.
So
number 7.
My number 7, Spider-Man: Homecoming. Marvel gets Spider-Man back, and we get a wonderfully quippy, absolute real teenager, like believe he is a real teenager, Spider-Man. Loved it, had fun. Saw it on a Saturday morning matinee, and I think that made it even better because there were like theater was half empty. It was empty enough that I could sit wherever I wanted, but it was full enough that people laughed at the jokes, and you could like feel the laughter in the theater. So
that's always good.
Yeah, that was wonderful. Number 7 for you, sir.
First Avengers, not the first Avenger, but Avengers 1.
Yeah. Cool.
So I had those 2 Avengers movies very closely ranked.
I think they belong pretty close together as far as like quality is concerned. They're relatively close together. Obviously, mine aren't that close together because we haven't hit the first Avengers for me yet.
Yeah.
But they are close. What did the aggregate give us for a 7?
Spider-Man: Homecoming.
Hey, they agree with me. I feel less bad about them being so wrong about Black Panther.
Yes, yeah, 6.96. So just under 7 points as the average score. With 3 people having not ranked it in some fashion.
Fair enough. Moving along into number 6, this is where I put the first Avengers film. This is my number 6. This was the team-up movie that I'd been waiting for my entire fanboy life. This felt more like the team-up movie that I wanted out of any of the X-Men movies than I got out of any of the X-Men movies.
Okay.
So that's where I sit on that. You're number 6, my friend.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. it was very good, and it hit a little bit closer to home for me, I think. So
Yeah, man. I mean, that's why we do this, right? To have conversations about that sort of thing. The aggregate's number 6.
I cut off that screen for a second. Aggregate's number 6. Spider-Man, or not Spider-Man, Iron Man. Wrong man.
Iron Man.
Iron Man the first.
At how many points?
6.25.
So that one and Spider-Man pretty interchangeable according to our fan community.
Yep, it was pretty close.
Cool. Now for the top 5. This is the big one, right? This is everybody's top 5. So I'm interested to see. There's a couple that I'm kind of curious about having not shown up on the community list yet to see where they might be. So I'm interested to see where we're going with that. My number 5 is Doctor Strange. As soon as the first time I saw this movie, I knew it would land in my top 5 and probably stay here for a while. I think it's pretty solidly going to be my number 5 for a good while. And because I don't know if it ever will go higher than that, but what I think it may do is leapfrog other movies that are in danger of being pushed out of the top 5, or if it's in danger of being pushed out of the top 5. Because to me, you mentioned it not having a great rewatchability. I believe it does have a great rewatchability. So I'm down for Doctor Strange at number 5. Jared, your number 5, please.
Thor Ragnarok. Much like you, I had a ton of fun with this movie. But I had a little bit more fun than you did, apparently.
Yeah, but not too much more fun.
No, not too much.
How much fun did the community have with number 5?
They agreed with me.
Ragnarok.
And the Ragnarok finished with 5.29 average.
Okay.
Only one person didn't rank it, so it got the average. It was in at least the top 10 of everyone else. And got a few number 1 scores. So.
Whoa, all right. Number 1, I think number 1's a bit high for that, but I could see how people might believe that.
Oh yeah, I mean it was definitely a lot of fun. So.
Keeping the train a-rolling, my number 4 is Iron Man, because there's a non-0% of its ranking that is the fact that it is the movie that started all of this. That matters to me enough to give it maybe a couple of percentage points higher ranking than I would have otherwise, because if we didn't get Iron Man and people didn't have the response to it that we did, who knows where we would be as a filmic universe right now.
You're not wrong. Like it did exactly what it needed to do.
Plus, it's also a really good superhero movie.
Yeah, it's very well done.
So, Jared, your number 4, please.
Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1.
Yes.
And their number 4, somehow getting all the way up here, Captain America Civil War.
Wow. Yeah, you remember when I said just a few minutes ago there were some that we hadn't hit yet in the community that I was surprised about? This was what I was talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very enjoyable movie. There's something to be said about more team-up movies, and this one did a pretty decent job at it.
I mean, they definitely are a team, and they definitely team up.
But the problem for me is that I do constantly get the events of Civil War and Age of Ultron mixed up in my head sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what actually happens in either one of them.
You know what my favorite part of Captain America Civil War is? The parts that are in Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. That's a good pull.
The parts from Peter's point of view in Spider-Man Homecoming are my favorite.
You know you can't
parts.
show that to anybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just filming it.
Yep. Yeah, that is easily my favorite parts of this movie, and they're not even in this movie. So
yeah, you got one person did rank it at the top spot.
Jesus.
Everyone did rank this movie. The lowest it got was a 13. Everyone else's were in the top 10.
Jeez. What did it get for a score then?
5.08. Like, it
Okay.
was very close to Ragnarok, but
Yeah.
way higher than it was on our list.
Yeah, way higher than either of us feel it should have gotten. So the top 3, this is the less mutable as far as I'm concerned, I think. My number 2 is The Winter Soldier. Because it's really good.
Well, it's 3.
Or my number 3, sorry. My number 3 is The Winter Soldier. I've
Number
done
3
the
is The
thing
Winter
where I
Soldier.
wrote the same digit again.
Okay.
I did this at work very quickly, and I wrote 1, 2, 2, and then 13, 13. I'm bad at counting.
It's not even counting. That's just not writing down numbers.
Well, it's counting. Do you not sub-vocalize when you write out a
it's
list of numbers? 'Cause
counting by numbers.
Yeah, I sub-vocalize when I write out a list of numbers, so I definitely...
It's metal by numbers. It's fine.
In my head, I went 1, 2, 3, 4, and in my hand went 1, 2, 2, 4.
It's not the way we count to 4.
It is most certainly not the way we count to 4. So my number 3 is The Winter Soldier, because it is a really good spy film with Marvel characters.
Yeah, it's very solid.
And it was actually the rewatch of it that cemented it. I would have put it in my top 5, but the rewatch and the conversation that we had with Max about it on the podcast was really what cemented it as a solid top 3 for me.
Okay.
Number 3 for you.
Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Like, it was a very amazing movie, and easily if you take out all the superhero elements, it's just a very well done movie and story, and it's very well told, and
It's an
shot.
incredibly powerful piece of social commentary. Like, there's a lot going on. I agree with you.
Absolutely. So,
I'm almost hesitant to ask what the aggregate has for number 3.
I mean, it's not too crazy. It's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, okay.
4.29.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's pretty high up on the list.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they only one person didn't rank it. It got a 7, a 6. All the rest were top 5s.
Wow. All right. I mean, it's a good movie. Because, spoilers, it's one of the 2 I haven't talked about yet.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
And I just talked about it before Black Panther, so it's in our top 4s.
So it clearly makes a lot of people's top 5s. And with that in mind, my number 2 is exactly that, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Makes sense. My number 2 is Iron Man.
Okay.
Like, the character Iron Man. Like, I like War Machine as a character more, but when I was first getting into comics, especially because I read the Civil War storyline, Iron Man became one of my favorite characters, because I'm pretty sure I would have sided with him in the movie and in the book series. So that's another reason why Civil War is so far down on my movie list, because it could have easily been Iron Man Civil War, and I would have loved that movie more, probably.
Yeah. I would side with Richard Rider in the Civil War, which is coming down and saying, fuck your Earth bullshit.
Yeah.
There's a lot more going on.
So ridiculous.
Yeah. You people are being idiots. There's a lot more going on here that you don't even know about. The aggregate's number 2?
Aggregate's number 2 is The Avengers.
I mean, I get it, because it was the team-up movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is the movie that everybody wanted, but I think that's a bit high. I think top 5 for Avengers is a bit much, personally. What did it get score-wise?
4.17.
You notice how as we get up to the top here, the numbers vary quite a bit from their actual positioning. This must have been all over the place to have the second lowest average ranking, but have that average ranking be a 4 and change.
Yeah. I mean, there was a few number 1s for the Avengers. Wait, no, just a single number 1 for the Avengers, but a ton of top 5s, a lot of top 3s. So
interesting. Which brings us now to the number 1 spot. Who has your top if you've been following along and tracking this as we've been going, you already know what the answer to this is. I've not been following Jared's list closely enough to be able to tell by looking at it what his number one is. But my number one is Black Panther because of the reasons we talked about when you brought it up in your number 3 spot, and the fact that this is probably the most culturally important superhero movie that we are likely to ever get. And it made me feel in the same way that DC's Wonder Woman made me feel during the good parts, which Black Panther has more good parts than Wonder Woman does, but stick with me on this explanation here. It made me feel like, for the first time, I couldn't look at the screen and see myself as the main character and see like, oh yeah, that's totally me. And I was okay with that because fuck, that must be how every minority feels when they watch any of the rest of these fucking movies.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
And on top of that, I wept like a child, and I talked about this in our episode that we did with Max. I wept like a child at Killmonger's closing entire sequence.
Yeah, like Michael B. Jordan's performance in that movie is so good.
It's incredible.
It's amazing.
Incredible. Your number one, sir.
So my number one is Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Ah, yes. That would be the one you haven't talked about yet.
Like for what Black Panther is an amazing film that is. And I believe me, my top 3 are not that far apart.
Mm-hmm. Neither are mine, to be honest.
I think the actual storytelling and the character arcs and just the way it was shot and the way it was written and everything that they pulled off in Winter Soldier, like, it propelled it to number 1 for me when I first saw it. And it's had a hard time of anything knocking it out of that top spot. I just think it's the most well-made of all of the Marvel movies. Not to say that the other ones aren't also well-made that we talked about in the top few, but for me and my money, it is just the most well-made.
Absolutely, man. Got to stand by your own decisions. And so what did our fan community have as their number 1?
They agreed with me. Winter Soldier. I was so happy when I saw this at the top of the aggregate list with a score of 3.38. It finished with 40.5 because one person did not have it in their top 5, so it wasn't ranked.
Yeah.
It obliterated the rest.
Yeah.
Or not obliterated, but just a decent margin.
Yeah.
Like between 2 and 3, 50, and then 51.5 points. 40.5 to 50 for 1 and 2. That's a pretty wide margin this high up.
It is. That's a very, very wide margin. So impressive. I can't say because how many people didn't have it ranked? Only 1?
Only 1. And yeah, one person didn't have it ranked, so it got a 9.5.
Mm-hmm.
And if they did go farther down, it probably would have gotten more than the average movie.
Mm-hmm.
2 people had it 7.
Okay.
One person had it 4. Everyone else was top 3.
Wow. All right.
It got 4 number 1 votes.
Well, there you have it. Thank you, fan community, for giving us your top 18s, your rankings. Let's open the discussion at some point. I mean, Infinity War is making my top 5, and I think it may be pushing Iron Man out of my top 5 because Doctor Strange to me is a top 5 movie, but that's where I'm sitting right now. You asked me to back this list up 12 months from now. I guarantee things are going to be different.
That's okay. I have it saved on the same sheet, so now he can't go back on it.
Well, and not only that, we have this audio, this 45 minutes of audio that is explanation proof of where I would put these things and exactly why. So
yeah. Also, I will throw out there because a few people did rank the newest Avengers movie.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough to actually give it an official ranking because only 4 of the 12 gave us a ranking.
Yeah.
But even with only 4 of the 12, it would have finished at number 8.
So cracking right into that top half.
Yeah, so it's already like a top 10 movie for most people. I think I would easily put it at number 7 myself. So
Mhm.
it would be the 3 Avengers movies in a row for me, with the Infinity War being the top one for me.
And you know what? Thinking about it, the team up movies that are the big plot driving set pieces and everything else probably should be about average.
Yeah, like a little bit more than average if it's well done, a little bit below average if it's not well done. Civil War.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not going to be as much plot because there's going to be more threads that they have to follow, and you can't build an amazing, like, well thought out, 2-hour plot when you actually have to think of like 3 45-minute plots and throw them all together and hope it works.
Mm-hmm. So that actually, like, that's pretty fitting to me that you would put it right in there with the other ones, and that other people's rankings leave it in about an average position in the aggregate, because that seems fitting to me. That seems fitting to me.
Yeah, 2 people had it at number 1, but because we didn't use those rankings, they didn't actually score it at number 1 for our 1 through 18.
Yeah.
But it definitely is a movie that a lot of people enjoyed, and maybe when we come back, if we do this again, if we come back for the next Avengers, we can have this one officially ranked in the top 20.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah, we can investigate how we're doing that. So thank you everybody for going on this journey with us for the last 20 ish weeks. It's actually been 19 weeks. Because we did the one double episode week. It's been really fun. I have reinvestigated some films I'd only seen once and found good and bad things about them. I finally saw The Hulk.
A movie you saw once.
Yeah, a movie I had seen once before and have now seen once. We've done 2 episodes about movies that have come out since we started the podcast. The one that we were intending to do, and Black Panther. That's cool to me. It's been a really weird experience to have such a deep conversation about some of these movies, because even though I think about them often, we have not talked about a lot of these movies before. So that's been kind of fun and neat. Who knows what's coming later for us? This is coming to a close because this was always meant to be a limited run podcast, but I'm sure we'll have some more stuff to check out on the very soon to be relaunched as of this recording, and hopefully by the time, if you're picking this up later, by the time you hear this, it will have been relaunched, superliminalfilms.com. Also make sure you check us out at Facebook, Duck Press, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, Fruit Array, Bumble, Twitter, Lord knows anywhere you are social on the internet. We are also social on the internet. Say goodbye, Jared.
Go see Han Solo. They deserve it.
Bye, everybody.